fans from all around the world, or just music fans, welcome to Musical People and Journey, and to our new rock album review show. Welcome to my panel, to Paul, to Simon, and to Trish. Welcome, gang. What's the show? Morning. What's the show all about? We are reviewing the latest rock albums, rate them out of 5. We'll get to our Hall of Fame. We'll then get to our album of the year, and tell you how we don't mark albums in terms of technical ability or how they performed. It's purely down to our personal how much we enjoyed listening to the album out of 5 from that perspective. So today's album is Left to Suffer, and their new album, which is called Leap of Death. Left to Suffer is an American deathcore metal band formed in Atlanta, Georgia in 2019, so quite a new band. The band consists of vocalist Taylor Barber, bassist Christian, guitarist Peter Jacob, and drummer Alex. Left to Suffer released a debut album, A Year of Suffering, 2020. And in 2023 they released Feral, their second length album. Their third studio album is Leap of Death, which is now being released then. Paul, let's start with you then. What did you think of Left to Suffer? Did you enjoy, or were you left to suffer?
I was left to suffer. I know there's fans of this type of music out there, and I appreciate that they may like this, but I'm not a fan of this American hardcore metal, of its most extreme screamo element. And for me, Left to Suffer were one of the worst offenders, especially as musicality of it was great, but the lead vocalist screams, growls, and for all I know, farts into a megaphone as the band strut their stuff throughout each song. I tried to revisit this album several times, but it was an instant turn off.
So, did you detect the farts in the megaphone, Trish? And now you've grown to love this sort of music. Did it make your ears bleed? Were you also left to suffer, or what?
So, at the beginning of Forever, I got really excited for what this album was going to bring, as it had me written all over it musically and vocally. But then a whole heap of growl came streaming right in. But I did not let this deter me and waited until the end of the album to make my call on it. For me, this album has me split in two, as I really like the collaboration tracks Will It Take My Breath and The Medicine, as these have a Bad Omens vibe vocally and are palatable to my ears. But the other tracks where it tends to be all deep growl all the way through, which isn't palatable to my ears. But I have to give credit to the vocalist to be able to achieve that deep vocal growl notes. It's just not for me, that side of the album. This is going to be a Marmite album for a lot of people who will either love it or not. But yeah, it got me stuck on the fence, which is what my score will reflect.
So, somebody who's also been a Marmite, do you love him? Do you hate him? Simon, this is more your cup of tea, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm super surprised we had it on the show. And I don't think it's a great choice if you wanted to change people's minds about grungy growling. And this is usually my kind of music, but even my personal taste has a limit on how much growling I can endure, and too many of the tracks cross that threshold for me. It's not that they were bad, they're just further outside of my usual taste. Having the more cleaner vocals seated in the second half of the album was an interesting choice. Kind of think they should have spaced them throughout the album, but then we consume the album in a way that most people probably don't these days. Everyone just Spotify's and listens to odd tracks here and there rather than whole albums. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the album, but I can see why it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to one or two tracks of an album, and I tried to pick metalcore bands that bring a little bit of everything to it, and it's very hard to say that in a whole album. If I listened to the whole album, I probably would have submitted this just to kind of get to everybody. But again, it's a journey, and like Paul, I was absolutely left to suffer. I mean, and suffer quite badly, really. and it frustrates the hell out of me because the musicality of these bands are just up there with some of the best rock bands. You know, their creativity and what they put into the melodies and the makeup and the composition of the album is sometimes stupendous, really. And I get really frustrated when I laugh because I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the vocals he's singing. I haven't got a bloody clue what he's doing, and I don't really care. I can't immerse myself. I can't get into it at all. It just leaves my ears bleed, and I get really annoyed and frustrated because I think musically it's absolutely stupendous. And that's what I've got to say about it. It was not my cup of tea, but you know, if that's your thing, I think you're gonna love it. I think it's in terms of that sort of genre, it's a very high quality. But anyway, let's find out. I don't think this is going to get into our Hall of Fame, but where will it end up? Let's find out, shall we? Paul, let's start with the pessimistic vote first of all, shall we? Well, not pessimistic, the harsh reality of life. What did you give this album?
The harsh reality. Well, the harsh reality. If there'd been no vocals on there whatsoever, I would have given this a 3, definitely. But with the vocals on there, 0.
Ooh, we haven't had a 0. I know we haven't had a 0 for a very long time, have we? And it's no surprise that comes from Paul. Trish.
2.5.
2.5. Simon.
3.
I give this because it deserves a point because of its musicality. I give this a 1. But the reason we put this in is because of William, and William give this a 5. So
Of course he did.
Of course he did. So
Will was either going to go 0 or 5.
Yeah, absolutely, and he went 5. So the last 2 albums, Leonardo, and he's been complete juxtaposition to us entirely, complete end of the radar, which is fine, which is what it's all about. 11.5, not a disaster because it did end up with Williams 5 on a 2.3. However, it is our least favourite album of the month. 118 out of 126 for the year. 373rd out of 428 for our all-time list. Check it out. Would you agree? You metalcore death band aficionados. How does Left to Suffer rate for you? Check out the album. See what you thought. Okay. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the like, subscribe button. Please leave comments. We love it. Thank you. Goodbye. Keep on rocking.
Goodbye.
Bye.